the lands known as the graveyard of empires, where the greatest empires of history both drew their fate and knelt down. Many of us know this country badly due to its events in recent years, but what about its geography? Right in the heart of Asia, that merciless crossroads where civilizations clashed, armies passed, and time almost stopped. A land of contrasts where the snowy and unforgiving peaks of the Hindu Kush mountains, piercing the sky, cast shadows over sun-scorched barren deserts and dusty valleys. This is a place where the footprints of Alexander the Great, the silent void of the colossal Buddhist statues in Bamiyan, and the millennia-old dust of Silk Road caravans are intertwined with the fresh rubble of modern wars. Its beauty is wild, its history is deep, and its fate is complex. This is a country where hospitality is the most sacred law, but survival is a daily struggle. This is Afghanistan, a tired but unshakable geography that the world often forgets, but history never abandons. And we will unravel all the mystery of this geography together with this documentary. Vast Wander presents Imagine a valley squeezed 1,800 meters above sea level. This is Kabul, a center thousands of years old, where geography itself was designed as a fortress. This is not just a capital. It was once the summer favorite of the Mughal Empire and a vital resting point for Silk Road caravans. Its air is thin, but its streets are dense. You breathe together the dust carried by the sharp wind descending from the mountains, the smoke of grilled kebab, the pungent smell of spices and diesel fumes. The worn walls of the ancient Bala Hisar fortress, standing guard on the hills above the city, summarize the history this valley has witnessed. These walls have seen the armies of Alexander the Great, the horsemen of Genghis Khan, the defeat of the British Empire, and the weight of Soviet tanks. The bed of the Kabul River, like the city's fate, sometimes dries up, sometimes overflows. The deep wounds left by modern wars are still readable in the facades of buildings riddled with bullet holes and in people's gazes. But beneath all this chaos and the heavy burden of history, life continues with an unshakable stubbornness. In the narrow streets of Kaffaroshi, Kabul is Afghanistan's tired, wounded, but unshakably continuing to beat heart. Every corner of it witnesses a tragedy, every street of it a 1,000-year-old story of resistance. If Kabul is a fortress squeezed between mountains, hardened by war, Herat is a rose blooming in a fertile oasis stretching toward the Iranian plateau in the country's far west. This is Afghanistan's gateway to the Persian world, the place where the country's cultural soul has beaten for centuries. Its air is different from Kabul's sharp mountain air. It is softer, more refined, and full of whispers of poetry and history carried by winds blowing from Iran. This is the place once enviously called the Florence of the East throughout the entire Islamic world. The heart of this fame is the Masjid-e-Jami, rising toward the sky in the city's center. This is not just a place of worship, but an artistic miracle. In the 15th century, at the peak of the Timurid Renaissance, under the patronage of Queen Gohar Shad, Herat hosted the world's greatest artists, poets, and architects. Every corner of the mosque is proof of that golden age's unshakable ambition and aesthetic genius. In contrast to the mosque's delicate elegance, the citadel of Herat, one of the world's oldest fortresses, stands like a sentinel rising above the city. Its massive, sloped mud brick walls have stood for more than 2,000 years since the armies of Alexander the Great set foot on these lands. This fortress is a silent witness that the city was shaped not only by art, but also by countless sieges and the rise and fall of empires. When you look down from the fortress to the bazaars of the old city, you feel the resilience of time. This is a living museum that reminds us that Afghanistan is not only a battlefield, but also the cradle of one of the world's greatest civilizations. When you advance toward the highest and most unforgiving peaks of the Hindu Kush mountains, the geography takes your breath away. Stretching at 2,500 meters altitude, this valley was once one of the most important crossroads of the Silk Road. This is Bamiyan, that point where ideas, religions, and art coming from China, India, and the Persian world met. For centuries, this valley became a refuge of Buddhist faith, and here, the most magnificent monuments of human ambition and faith were carved into the soft sandstone cliffs. The colossal Buddha statues silently ruled over this valley for 1,500 years. They were the world's largest standing depictions of Buddha. They were not just stone. They were symbols of a tranquility beyond time, guiding the millions of pilgrims, merchants, and soldiers passing through this mountain pass. Today, those massive niches stand with a painful emptiness. They were destroyed in 2001 by the Taliban's act of barbarism. Now, Bamiyan is defined not only by what was there, but by what was ruthlessly torn away from there. As we said at the beginning, this geography hosts many heritages and works, but unfortunately, some groups have no respect for this. When you make a sharp descent from the high-altitude prison of the mountains eastward toward the Pakistani border, Afghanistan's face completely changes. This is Jalalabad, the country's winter capital. Unlike the cold, mountainous interior regions, this is an almost subtropical oasis. The air is mild, humid, and full of the sharp, sweet citrus blossom scents spreading from orange, lemon, and grapefruit orchards. The Mughal emperors would take refuge here to spend their winters, escaping from Kabul's merciless cold and enjoying the gardens they established in these fertile lands. Jalalabad is the guardian on the Afghan side of the legendary Khyber Pass, history's most notorious pass. This pass is a vital artery connecting the Indian subcontinent to the rest of Asia, and for thousands of years it has been either an entrance gate or an escape route for armies, merchants, and conquerors. The vibrant chaos of South Asia meets the harshness of the Afghan mountains here. This is one of the country's most dynamic and most unstable crossroads, where greenery and danger are intertwined. When you descend to Afghanistan's south, toward the country's most arid and most unforgiving lands, you feel a change in the air. The sharp cold of the mountains gives way to scorching heat and the dense smell of dust. This is Kandahar. This is not just a city. It is the unshakable fortress of the Pashtun world, the cradle where modern Afghanistan was born, and the place where the country's deepest, most conservative traditions are preserved. For centuries, this city became a vital center for caravans moving back and forth between the Indian subcontinent and the Iranian plateau, a fortress of trade and supply. However, Kandahar's true legacy was written in the 18th century when Ahmad Shah Durrani laid the foundations of the modern Afghan nation here. This became the first capital of an empire. Kandahar is also known as the place where the Taliban movement was born and spread in the 1990s. Here, the unshakable code of honor known as Pashtunwali governs every aspect of life. Kandahar is Afghanistan's raw, unfiltered, and fiery spirit. History does not merely flow through Afghan lands, it crashes into these mountains, breaks in these valleys, and rewrites fate in these lands. This is the chessboard of global powers, the place where the world's greatest ambitions are tested and mostly fail. Every turning point has been engraved into the soil's memory, leaving a deeper trace than the one before. This story begins with Alexander the Great driving his armies into these rugged cliffs, which he saw as the end of the then-known world. He was the first conqueror to pass through here, but he would not be the last. Centuries later, the horsemen of Genghis Khan swept through these valleys like a storm. Then, the golden age of the Silk Road made these lands not just a passage route, but a center of civilization. Buddhist art reached its peak in Bamiyan. The Timurid Renaissance in Herat produced the most elegant works of Islamic art. However, this geography's fate has been defined by powers coming from outside. In the 19th century, the British and Russian empires entered a struggle for influence over these lands in the Cold War known as the Great Game. Britain, experiencing some of the most shameful military disasters in its history here, solidified the legend of the graveyard of empires. And history repeated itself mercilessly. When Soviet tanks entered Kabul in 1979, they became stuck in a bloody quagmire that would last 10 years and accelerate the collapse of a superpower. The ashes of this invasion lit the fuse of a new era that would change the country and the entire world, of civil war and the rise of the Taliban. Afghanistan's history is not a series of events, but an uninterrupted cycle of pain, resistance, and struggle for survival, each built upon the rubble of the one before. Perhaps the toughest battle in modern Afghanistan is being fought not in mountain passes or dusty valleys, but behind closed doors, in the lives of women who constitute half of a nation's soul. Just one generation ago, the streets of these cities echoed with the steps of women going to universities, serving as judges in courts, writing in newspapers, speaking in parliament. They were the architects trying to build a new future for these weary lands. Today, that future seems stolen. School doors have been shut in the faces of girls above a certain age. University amphitheaters have been shrouded in silence, and the public sphere has been almost completely purged of women's voices and presence. However, resistance is not always with weapons. It is in the pages of a textbook, shared in whispers, in secret homeschools, in rooms with tightly drawn curtains. This is an invisible front, a place where ideas, not bullets, fight. And on this front, the Afghan woman continues to be not only her country's lost conscience, but also its most unshakable hope. Beneath the dust and rubble that the world sees lies a thousands of years old elegance and an unshakable code of honor. The most sacred of this code is the law of hospitality known as Pashtunwali. Here, a cup of tea offered to a stranger is not just a beverage, it is a promise of refuge. Your home is a sacred sanctuary, even for the person with whom you have a blood feud. The hand raised against a guest is the greatest shame. This is the land where Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi was born, and poetry here is as natural as breathing. The power of words challenges the power of weapons. The world's purest and deepest lapis lazuli blue has been extracted from these mountains for thousands of years. That celestial blue adorning the tombs of Egyptian pharaohs is a gift of this soil. And then there are those world-famous Afghan carpets, where every knot tells a family story, their colors taken from the roots of plants. They are not just objects, they are genealogies woven into the soil. Thank you for joining us on this deep journey in Afghanistan. While creating this film, I repeatedly remembered a reality that lies behind the headlines and war images, one that cannot be easily seen. Beyond the dusty roads and bullet-riddled walls, we saw the unshakable spirit of a thousands of years old civilization. We saw that divine elegance in Herat's blue tiles, the deep sorrow echoed by that massive emptiness in the Bamiyan Valley, and the unshakable stubbornness of life in Kabul's streets despite everything. Afghanistan is an extraordinary place, an infinitely layered country, not only with its merciless geography, but also with its unshakable codes of honor, deep poetic heritage, and hope that manages to sprout even in the darkest times. This is a country that deserves not to remain in the shadow of the nickname Graveyard of Empires, but to have its people's unshakable resilience, its culture's richness, and especially its women's silent courage understood. If this deep and complex story resonated with you, I would very much like you to share your thoughts in the comments. And to continue exploring together, don't forget to subscribe and join us in the next adventure. Finally, I want to honor this weary but proud land with the words of the great poet Mevlana Jalaluddin Rumi, who was born in these very lands. The wound is the place where the light enters you. Perhaps Afghanistan's story, despite all its wounds, is the story of an unextinguished light. Explore the world. Discover the extraordinary until we meet in the next adventure. Vast Wander presented. We love you very much.